Talk about Greg Gutfeld, who said some awful shit about Maui, it seems.
Line is provided. If you are in a low-lying area near the coastline, evacuate to high grounds, inland or vertically to the fourth floor and higher.
The gut.
Lots to discuss on this, Greg.
Also known as Greg Buttfeld.
The politics around climate change seems to be absolving people in charge of accountability.
Well, first off, the sirens went off for incoming missiles that never came.
Yeah.
Then when they need sirens, they don't use them.
Yeah, like.
Are you laughing, you fucking freak? Are you that excited to fucking pop a joke off? 1,000 people are still lost. Holy shit.
In a nuclear disaster, are you supposed to go to higher ground?
Yeah,
that's what he's arguing.
There's a lot of...
Yeah, I think... I hate TheFive so fucking much. I'm going to go ahead and say it. TheFive has become the most annoying program on Fox, which probably means it'll become its most successful. They'll probably put it on the Tucker Carlson timeline instead. I think it literally is the most annoying, the most unbearable, because it has Buttfeld and Jesse Waters together, and the cringe levels are so off the charts. And then when you add Judge Jeanine Pirro, that trifecta is like just nuclear waste cringe. It's the enriched uranium of cringeitopia. You have like the right level of insane and just out of control ranting and screeching. You have this smarmy, annoying, creepy Greg Buttfeld, and then you have Jesse Waters, who's like the frat bro, who's like, I don't understand anything. He's like so stupid, but so fucking smug.
Stuff going on there, including like why they waited on releasing the water and stuff like that, and a lot of it has to do with ideology. All the other problems when one water and stuff like that, and a lot of it has to do with ideology. It sounds like, and when one ideology becomes the overarching principle.
What is the ideology, man? What the fuck? Oh.
Then all the other problems underneath it become less vital, right? So you have 111 people right now, I think, have died, right? But let's focus on climate change. You see what happens there. It's like you have this horrible problem. All of these people died, but keep your eye on the big picture. The big picture is climate change. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. This is exactly the ideology behind people starving to death in USSR, dying in China. It's like focus on the revolution, focus on the great promise of communism, the great leap forward. Just keep it. Who cares if people are dying? We have stupidly made all problems, whether it's you'll see it, education and crime and the border, and most of all, mental health, secondary to climate.
What is the point he's trying to make? That like the communist government of Hawaii was too busy making everybody non-binary that they forgot that there was like a wildfire happening?
And it's the irony of this is that issue is causing mental health problems. But the issue is now.
I don't understand how this has anything to do with, okay, 111 people have died. The big picture is climate change. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. This is exactly the ideology behind people dying in the USSR and China. Focus on the revolution, the great promise of communism, the great leap forward. I don't get what this has to do with the Maui wildfires and the lack of safety nets and adequate protection. Even the fucking sirens not turning on. I guess like Republicans are basically on autopilot now. Why actually address anything when you could just do anti-communist word soup and the boomers will just respond? Like at this point, it's like listening to a dude experiencing night terrors. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever had that situation where like someone says a bunch of words and they don't really make any sense? while they're sleeping, and you're like, I think this person is dreaming. It's like that. He's just vomiting out like trigger words for the audience to respond to, and that's pretty much it. In a way, he's no different than the NPCs on TikTok. You know what I mean? But instead of ice cream so good, he's like, great leap forward, Maoist revolution, landlord genocide. That's what these people care about. Making your child non-binary. It's like, what are you talking about, Greg? Okay, Greg, go to sleep. Go to sleep, old man. Ice cream's so good. Oblivion NPC ass, dude. What the fuck? What is he saying? What the hell does this have to do with the fucking wildfires? All right, let's hear what my queen Jessica Tarlov had to say.
So we're not like predisposed to love Hawaiian Electric or whatever it was called. And obviously there was a mismanagement of the problem, but that did collide with drought conditions. The soil wasn't just dry, it was drier than normal. And then Hurricane Dora was stronger than normal. Those winds that picked up the electrical short circuiting is what made it a disaster of this proportion. And that's why Lahaina is gone, which is a complete travesty there.
I don't think you can make that there's a lot of possibilities in that linkage. And I think there's a few holes in it right there.
Well, like what? What are the holes? Please explain to me the holes. Is this where he starts talking about Maoism?
But I'll let you go because I
appreciate that.
But there's all this money, this climate change money that's not going to the adaptations, right? So let's shore up the power lines then. Let's shore up the things. Like, and none of that is happening anywhere. It's not even happening in New York.
But there seems to be, or at least the vibe that I'm getting from the table, that there's a refusal, and you said, I'm not saying that climate change isn't real, but it is an important piece of this puzzle. I mean, we had these record heat waves, and the leaders of Republican states in the last month have all been on TV talking about it, the precautions they have to take, that they're making sure that there's water available to people. Like, it's real.
Well, that's adaptation. That's adaptation.
But also, I don't think...
I like that there are certain aspects of the conservative circuit that move beyond global warming. The globe is actually cool, to basically starting to recognize that climate change is real, and have moved on to like secondary reasons as to why A, it's real, but it's good because it makes some areas more habitable, or B, it's real, but there's not really much we can do about it because otherwise we'll be exploiting the third world, which is contributing more to climate change happening or whatever, which is, by the way, not even real. But that is the Jordan Peterson argument, which is like, well, the Nigerian economy relies on oil exports. Do you want to stop them from thriving? How white Western, how Western centric and chauvinistic can you get? You want all of the Nigerians to die. Back in the day, this is the ladder of climate denial. They move the goalposts back, but are always trying to stop action. It's been established for a long time. Exactly. Back in the day, it was not real. Not real. Shut the fuck up. You're crazy. You're delusional. Now, as the externalities, as the consequences of anthropogenic climate change become more and more unavoidable, like that you see the tangible impact, because it's like, what the fuck? Why is there a hurricane in California, in Southern California in August? Why is that happening? Why is the Texas grid freezing and the power's going out for weeks? Why is any of that happening? This is not supposed to happen at all. When you start recognizing that, people are just like, okay, well, maybe things are crazy. On the one hand, you either continue going in the other direction where you're like, oh no, it's happening because of Jewish space lasers. Or, oh no, it's happening because of Chinese space lasers. Oh no, it's happening because of the HAARP program that the American military conducted. Or you have to inevitably come to the recognition that, like, it is a very real problem. So let's just move the goalposts a little bit and be like, yeah, it's a real problem. We want to solve it. But, like, also you just don't care about the other people who are suffering as a consequence of that. There's also a lot of blame shift as well. Like the gross way of pointing the finger at blame of carbon pollution on the third world, on like developing nations, claiming that they are mostly responsible for it, when in fact they make up a tiny fraction in comparison to the developed Western world, which has been at the heart of polluting the planet for a century. It's really, really messed up. That's not true, though. Yeah, do you think they care about the truth, man? We're talking about people that are saying space lasers. Yes, the one step more intelligent than the guy who believes in Chinese space lasers causing wildfires in Maui is the guy that thinks that black and brown people are the people most responsible for. That's ridiculous. 346, that's insane. You're being so fucking horny. Okay, 346, get the fuck out of here. That's not a good debate. You should be banned for that. That's insane. Anyway. Wild. But HasanAbi, that doesn't matter because next Sunday, Elon will start his Mars mission. Wait, what is this?
And I think he got arrested for something or charged with something. Look, I was a narcotics judge, and I was also...
Blue City Drug Haven, Philly business owner set up booby traps for protection. Booby traps? What the fuck is going on? Bro. Dude, we are the grossest country on the fucking planet. When I look at a situation like this, I see devastation that the government needs to intervene in. Okay? It should not be left up to small business tyrants to like deal with people who are nodding on the streets, okay? I mean, it's barbaric. We need to have rules, man. What is happening?
DA, and I created and helped create the drug courts in Westchester County. Look, you need the leverage. You need the stick. They're not going to go into treatment unless they're faced with jail time. And a lot of them would rather go to jail than go to treatment. So we had something going for us when we had...
Yeah, no, totally. Dude, that's such a good take. Thank you. That's why America's drug problems are non-existent in comparison to the rest of the planet because of our over-criminalization of addiction. Famously, America, one of the most draconian legal systems in the Western world, and also famously, America, no drug problems whatsoever. So we should continue doing the really good things that we've been doing as our prisoner population keeps growing, where we have 25% of the entire planet's incarcerated population inside of our borders, even though our total population percentage is only 4% of the entire world's population. That's sick. Love that. That's definitely a good idea. At this point, I'm not even talking about the morality of the situation. It is impractical to look at this issue and go, let's keep doing the same failed policies that we act like is not in place. It's Kensington and Philadelphia, and it's wild. People nodded out everywhere, shooting up in public, but all the yokels don't want safe injection sites. I've seen people just dead on the road, and people step over them. The cops don't give a fuck, and the government is of no help. Yeah. Highest recidivism rates on the fucking planet. One of the worst carceral states on the planet. But you know what? We could just keep saying that that is not real. We keep over-medicating the population, getting more and more people hooked on. Bro, you did that joke before of placing a turret in Nordstrom. Now it's real. Yeah. When is America going to put the homeless in camps? We already are doing that a little bit. I mean, in the last mayoral race in Los Angeles, the billionaire real estate developer who perhaps is most responsible for homelessness in Los Angeles actually wanted to put concentration camps for homeless to be concentrated. The U.S. needs slave labor to somehow function. Yeah, but these guys aren't even, they're not even viable slaves. You understand? Like, throwing these people inside of the prison system doesn't necessarily make them, free workers and free labor. You're not even doing anything. We just have created a structure where short-term profits are so supreme, so important, that we don't even give a shit about the externalities that are causing significant long-term issues.
Had the big stick and the leverage. What has happened now is we have so normalized drug abuse and drug addiction that we have created these safe injection sites and vending machines and with needles and all kinds.
Viable slaves is going to get you into drama, Lamont? No, my point is, like, it doesn't even, the point there is that it doesn't even make sense from the most awful perspective that you could have. The most cynical, yet very realistic perspective is that, yes, there needs to be a permanent underclass. There needs to be permanent slave labor, which is why after slavery was abolished, we still codified it in the 13th Amendment, and we basically moved it into the carceral structure, the prison system, which suspiciously still disproportionately targeted black and brown people, right? So nothing really changed in that regard. You still have slaves, and it's perfectly legal and perfectly valid in the United States of America, and not a single person has ever even made the effort to try to change that system. However, this is a completely separate side of this. What you're experiencing here is addiction born out of endless profit seeking in the pharmaceutical industry and a lack of interest in actually treating addiction as anything but a crime. Like, there isn't even like a cynical, like Machiavellian purpose for this to exist. Does that make sense? It's more so just like, oh yeah, it's loose ends. Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Lily the Chaos God, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
Kinds of laws that literally protect these people and allow them to do this in front of residences and business.
And this shit is gross as fuck in the way that, like, liberal cities also, their solution is also fucking gross. Like, there are empty buildings everywhere. And the liberal solution is, yeah, just act like they're not there. Just let them eat trash, let them take a shit on the fucking roads, and act like they're not there, okay? In the limited amount of sidewalk space that you have in these car-reliant infrastructure-based cities, let them just live in the side of the road. Fuck it, YOLO. Just don't look. Just don't look in their direction. And if you do look in their direction, you have to be a social worker. Like, every little hyper-individualistic American has to behave like a social worker on their daily commute. And that's fucking insane. Why are we living under the oppressive thumb of a government if they're not handling the situation? That's the goal. That's why we live in a fucking society. That's why we're not living in goddamn caves, fist fighting bears out in the goddamn wild. The entire purpose of society as a form of existence, and why it was developed, is so that this doesn't happen. You are never supposed to brave the elements as a human, okay? You're never. That's not supposed to happen. Do nothing or force relocation, no other choices? What do you mean? There is something you can do. It's just that no one wants to do it because we care about short-term profits. That's it. Housing prices have to consistently go up. We can never create affordable mixed-income housing, higher density housing in areas. You see it every day. You see it in even places like Oklahoma. I saw a video from a city town hall meeting where there was a developer who was fucking screaming about nurses not being able to pay rent. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Somebody's got to clean the toilets. Somebody has to work at Starbucks. Somebody has to be your nurses. Somebody has to teach your children. If you want to endlessly increase your housing prices and you allow the federal government or the state government to do whatever the fuck it can to maintain that, who's going to work? You can't expect people to commute 3 hours away from like low income enclaves into the cities where you live. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like that.
Businesses, but in front of your house, Greg, if you want to put a 3-foot fence, you'll get charged and fined for doing that, but they can do that all over and destroy things. And drugs are more dangerous than ever now. If ever there were a time to at least consider the criminal justice.
Can you explain why the house prices would go down if homeless people move in? I genuinely don't understand it. In order for housing prices to go down, you need to decommodify housing in general. The entire reason why homelessness happens is because people get priced out of the housing market in areas where they work. And then they slowly but surely, through years and years of attrition, succumb into the type of homelessness that you see that's very visible, that's like a permanent scar, right? The criminal component. The people that these freaks would call vagrants or transients because they're fucking animals, the people that say that, okay? That dehumanize and depersonalize the individuals that are constantly having a mental health episode in front of your eyes. Okay? That visible aspect of homelessness doesn't happen overnight. It's not directly a consequence of mental health. It's not directly a consequence of drug addiction, although those two certainly play a role in exacerbating the problem. But the number one reason for homelessness is being priced out of the housing market, not being able to have a house. That's it. So, why are you priced out of the housing market? Because in the United States of America, where there is actually a tremendously low percentage of single home owners, which is what, 60% or even less than that, maybe 50%, which is unimaginable in comparison to places like, for example, former Soviet countries in Eastern Europe, where home ownership rates go up to 93%, okay? The issue is born out of people that basically refuse any kind of measures to be implemented. We have zoning regulations. We've created suburbs specifically to have white people flee from cities and away from black people and away from brown people. Our entire infrastructure is car reliant. There's no adequate public transit anywhere. All of these things make it infinitely more costly to live inside of cities or even get into cities, but you still need people to work in the cities, and the jobs are not paying enough, and there's no affordable housing. The zoning limitations make it so that you can't build anything, and when you do build something, you're usually building incredibly expensive luxury high-rise condominiums, because even if you have an inventory that is not entirely sold immediately, you get a fuck ton of tax benefits as a consequence of that. So a lot of real estate developers are min-maxing this process. So they're like, hey, look, we'll sell like 8 properties to some Saudi royals, maybe some Chinese billionaires, but then the rest of the building will be unoccupied. But that's a depreciating asset that we can write off against our next project that we're going to engage in. All the while we're claiming that we're doing this to open up, open up more housing opportunities for people. Anyway, at the end of the day, all of that creates this chaotic environment where there isn't enough housing in really high density areas. And the housing is not mixed income, and there's not enough affordable housing. So that keeps raising the price of the pre-existing inventory, because it is, at the end of the day, a good that has inelastic demand. You have to have shelter or you become homeless and you die. Our current housing crisis is completely manufactured. It's artificial. It doesn't need to be like this at all. one tries to help the bottom line or solve issues. Everyone's trying to get rich, so problems no longer apply to them. Yes. People say homelessness is also a threat for the existing working class, so they did not relegate to those conditions. It's something that they constantly fear, and it keeps them in tip-top shape, even when conditions worsen in the workplace. But ultimately, I don't think that is the real reason why homelessness exists. The real reason why homelessness exists is because we care too much about short-term profits for homeowners. Homeowners vote.
The system as leverage. It's now, because a little fentanyl is going to kill you. And let's not let Fauci off the hook. All of this, a lot of this happened because of the school.
For the record, Austria has low homeownership rates, but Austrian housing is, at least in Vienna, for example, government funded, government owned, so you're renting from the government. Even if you don't have a super high homeownership rate, there is still significantly lower homelessness. Germany has different initiatives for homelessness as well. So it's not always the same for homeownership rate percentages versus homelessness. But a high percentage of homeownership absolutely does translate to a low amount of homelessness in general. Does that account for apartments? Does Hong Kong count boxes as homes? They do. There's always alternative products that some of these countries have created to make it so that there isn't. Can I just move in with you? No, of course not. Okay? No, obviously not. My family lives with me. What? Why not? Yeah, random person, come fucking kill me in my house, okay? Have fun. This shit is so fucking annoying, especially whenever, like, I'm talking about systemic problems that require systemic solutions, and people, I mean, I think that person was just, like, personally joking. That person wasn't being serious. But there are people who take that very seriously, okay? That person is just joking. But there are people who do take that seriously, where they think that that's a good, effective counter. It's like, oh, dude, yeah, no, definitely. In order to solve homelessness, you should come and live with me. That's how this works. That's how we'll solve it. Individual acts of charity, or even wealthy people being magnanimous, is never going to solve the crisis of capitalism, because that crisis is born out of class antagonism and the conflict between the interests in the ownership class against the interests of the labor class. Also, homelessness. Look, there's different designations: unsheltered versus homelessness. This is also a difficult thing to. This is also a difficult concept to universalize, because different countries have different metrics for homelessness. Like, some of these European nations will have higher homelessness numbers because their barrier for being counted as a homeless person is actually different than, for example, the United States of America. This is the largest issue in America, though. I think it's the most visible one. It's the worst one. It's what people see as crime in general, even if it's not technically a crime. But the rate of homelessness in the United States of America is seen as much better than some other countries because of the way that we designate it. Like, by these standards, China has a worse homelessness problem than the United States of America. The Netherlands has a worse homelessness problem than the United States of America. Israel, Germany, Hungary, Haiti. Well, Haiti makes sense. All these other countries have a worse homelessness problem than the United States of America. Are you saying that it's not correct? No. What I'm saying is that homelessness metrics are entirely different in other countries. One example I can give you, crime metrics and crime data are entirely different in other countries. For example, let me explain. You will look at a place like Sweden and you look at rape statistics and you're like, holy shit, these statistics are out of control. What's happening? Are Swedish people just like insane rapists? Like, what's happening? And then you realize that their calculation for sexual assault includes spousal rape, but more importantly, every single individual act of rape is treated as a separate crime. So then that inflates the numbers dramatically in comparison to other countries. You also have more reporting and better tracking measures. So then if you look at the actual data in front of you, you look at the actual numbers in front of you and you compare it to the United States of America, which I'm not entirely familiar with the rape statistics here, but I do know that it's not reported as adequately as the United States, as Sweden, or rather reported individual acts of rape in a similar way. Then you come to a false conclusion that it's not as big as a problem. Hasan acknowledging how the data obtains helps us understand the discrepancies between data from other nations. Yes. So high is it so high for Sweden? It's higher for Sweden because Sweden reports it more accurately. Florida man phenomenon is a good example of this. Yes, Florida has sunshine laws, which mean that whenever someone is charged with a crime, their identity is revealed. It's publicly accessible information. So what that means is you can write news articles about every and any crime that occurs in the state of Florida. So you create this false phenomena that the state of Florida is unique. Well, there is definitely some aspects of Florida that is unique. Spousal rape in America is not included. Spousal rape in America is included, yet I don't know how it differs state by state. I don't know how, and I do know that it doesn't actually include each individual act of rape. But let me tell you, spousal rape is so normalized in the United States of America that Dennis Prager wrote not one but two articles talking about how good it is and how you need to do it, called When a Woman Isn't in the Mood, Part 1, and also When a Woman Isn't in the Mood, Part 2. The hurricane in LA could potentially get hundreds of homeless people that use the LA River Canal sides as a place to set up their tents and where they keep their possessions. I just drove by 710 and saw firefighters trying to get people to move. Yeah. Rare M. HUD mod action only because he was a Swede. What happened? Unless every country gets together and agrees to report the same standards, you can't make an apples to apples comparison, and countries never will agree to such a standard because then they have the freedom to change their reporting criteria and just change the statistics for the purposes of propaganda? I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just giving you why this data is inconsistent. You have to have a deep level of knowledge. You have to understand exactly where the fuck people are, what kind of reporting occurs. Yeah, see? Oh, we in Sweden have crazy numbers because all the immigrant rapes are women. There you go. This guy is Swedish and is a fucking idiot. There it is. Least racist Swede. I just gave you the reason as to why Sweden saw a fucking major uptick in rape statistics that actually started before immigration into Sweden, or like refugees, Muslim refugees coming into Sweden. And the reason for why it happened was because they changed the way that they report rape statistics in Sweden. But it doesn't matter. To that guy, it's easier. It's an easier argument to just say, no, it's the fucking scary Muslims that are raping our beautiful Swedish women. Yeah, also immigrants include people coming from other European countries because of Schengen, but they are, when they say it, they mean just Muslims. So, my argument always is that it makes so much more sense to have a housing first way, like to combat homelessness. You have to have a housing first initiative where the first thing you need to do is put homeless people inside of homes, okay? Permanent shelter, not homeless shelters with a fuck ton of assaults and theft happening and rapes happening. I'm talking individual homes, okay? That is the easiest way to try and battle addiction and the litany of other mental health complications that homeless people are going through. That's how you're supposed to do it.
School lockouts and the lockdowns in homes, and the highest overdose rate in this country was in 2022. And that was because people couldn't go to treatment, they couldn't have meetings, and we're in a bad place. So we've got to figure out, like San Diego did, it's real easy to clean this stuff up. You pass laws, you enforce laws, and then people like the guy from Gumps don't have to stand there and say, we can't live like this. There is an intentional destruction of America, and it should stop, and it can.
I agree. I think there is an intentional destruction of America. It's just not the people that she thinks is responsible for it.
Stop.
Speaking of COVID, this is interesting, Dana. Everything was shut down, basically, except for...
After calling for more arrests of drug addicts, Judge Jeanine Pirro exclaims, and let's not let Fauci off the hook. The irony of Judge Jeanine Pirro talking about criminal drug addicts is hilarious to me, because, like, she is the prototypical, she is the archetype of the barred out delusional woman, okay? Like, what the fuck do you mean? It's just, there's one major difference, okay? Rich people also abuse drugs. They do, all the fucking time. Except they do it inside of shelter, so you don't see it in the same way the homeless people are abusing drugs in the middle of the street. Rich people also have an opportunity for rehabilitation. Because when a rich fail son is abusing fucking drugs, you quietly will take the kid and put him in a goddamn, facility where they can get help, the best possible help.